Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have the latest from the live radar, run for the latest UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. So we do have pretty stunning conditions around at the moment, with lots of sunshine, warm air wafting in from the near continent. It is going to remain fairly dry and it's going to remain fairly warm in places, but the wind is going to veer to more of an easterly instead of a southeasterly over the weekend, and that will mean there's a slightly fresher feel in the air, especially towards eastern coasts. It could be a little bit cooler, perhaps down towards the low teens, or maybe only just about into the double digits. Further westwards though, still potentially getting towards those high teens or even 20-degree mark. As we progress into the longer range, it's likely to continue for at least the next 7 days, with this high pressure block going absolutely nowhere. However, we are starting to see signs around perhaps the 14th, 15th of April, so in a good week plus time of a bit of a change. Some agreements starting to appear both within the operation runs and the ensembles for lower pressure to return. Exactly what capacity, still some uncertainty, but there has been a substantial shift in the last 48 hours or so back towards lower pressure. Very few runs keep that higher pressure around from the middle of the month. So do enjoy this dry and fairly warm conditions we do have around at the moment, because we are likely to see it ending as we do head through in towards the middle of April. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow me on Twitter as well. The link's in the description. Now, to start on the live radar, we've seen that pretty much the best day of the year so far in terms of sunshine and warmth. Officially, Met Office has said we got up to 23.7 degrees across southern England. Most areas a couple of degrees cooler, but locally 23.7 degrees. And that's the warmest it's been in over 6 months since the end of September. So very warm conditions today. Did feel like a bit of summer out there, I must say. There was that real warmth, not only in the sun, but actually in the air today when I was out and about. So yeah, really pleasant conditions. Unfortunately, it's not lasting all too long, and it will feel cooler through the weekend to next week, but still the pleasant sunshine, temperatures well into the mid to high teens, that will likely continue. You can see though, if we put on the temperatures later on this around 9 p.m, you can see already those eastern areas are starting to cool down. That is that easterly flow starting to arrive. You can see where it's been warmest today across central, western and southern areas, those eastern regions. It is starting to cool down already, and this is just going to be a recipe for the next week or so with this west to east split. If you have a look at the latest UKV now, not expecting much in the way of precipitation at all over the coming days. Yes, an easterly flow coming in, a bit of lower cloud getting dragged in at times for those eastern regions. But again, most areas, lots of sunshine and very little precipitation, pretty much no precipitation. I highly doubt we'll see anything over the next few days. And there's a slightly higher chance next week with a bit of thicker cloud coming in off the North Sea. But generally speaking, once again, you can see no blue at all here, so no rain expected. Again, thicker cloud there into Wednesday, maybe bits and bobs of drizzle, but as I said, very little chance of seeing anything substantial for anywhere, which is pretty unusual, especially out of a summer month. It is unusual in summer to see no precipitation at all anywhere across the UK for 5 days, but even more unusual as we are still in the first half of spring. Now, if you look at the upper air temperatures, you see it has been warm today, but it will turn a little bit cooler through this weekend. The upper air temperatures don't drop too much, but it's the wind direction shifts, cooler air coming in off the North Sea. So if those eastern regions starts to cool down, you can see some slightly colder air is just out of the North Sea as we head through Sunday and into early next week. Again, nothing ridiculous, just a few degree temperature drop. And again, cold sea surface temperatures making it feel even cooler across those eastern coasts. And generally, you can see the upper air temperatures just about dropping towards freezing there. So still pretty chilly into next week. Now, to look at the max temperature, you see where it was warmest today in those central, southern and western regions. Far north and especially northeast, much cooler, just about into the double digits, if not even single digits right on the coast. And that's because of the cold sea surface temperatures out in the North Sea. Only 7 or 8 degrees right above the sea. And when that gets dragged in, it is going to make it feel colder on land. Doesn't matter what the sun is doing, what the air mass is doing. When we've got that cold air at the surface coming in off the North Sea, it makes it feel cold. This is a regular occurrence. This happens pretty much every single year as a result of the cooling seas over winter. And again, it's just something we always have to deal with, unfortunately. And it just means for those far eastern areas, especially eastern coastal areas, always means those first month or two of warm conditions, the first few occasions like we're seeing here with the temperature do wide get into the low 20s, never normally occurs, and it's much cooler in the east, always delaying that first proper warmth, probably until May, maybe even June. So we'll have to wait and see, but unless we saw a shift in wind direction, with this easterly flow continuing, we're unlikely to see anything too much warmer for those eastern coastal areas. As I said though, it is just unfortunate. It happens every year when we see these sort of high pressure systems. Into Saturday, bit of a frost in northern areas, and you see that east-west split is still there, maybe just about 20 degrees through Saturday afternoon, still much cooler for northern and east areas. And again into Sunday, a cold morning, but by the afternoon, once again into the mid to high teens. Again, still quite a big split there, about 7 or 8 degrees split east to west. Monday morning, again, pretty cold morning, and by the afternoon, once again, 15 to maybe 18 degrees. Into Tuesday, still again cold through the morning, and then by the afternoon, once again, 14 to maybe 18 degrees. So getting a bit milder there further eastwards with a slight shift in wind direction, but generally speaking, those temperatures staying fairly steady. And you see on Wednesday, the east to west split is still there, but it's shifted all the way to the Irish Sea with the mildest conditions across Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Most across England, Wales and Scotland are a few degrees cooler. But we always have to caveat that with there's lots of sunshine, especially over the next few days, maybe less so on Wednesday with a bit of a thicker cloud dragging in, and it's dry. Those are the most important things, I think, this time of year. So we're getting all of that. Any warmer air, i.e. getting towards that 20 degree mark, is just a bonus. Now, if you look at the long range charts, though, you can see southeasterly wind at the moment, moving to more of an easterly through this weekend. That's why it turns slightly cooler, and high pressure generally hangs around for the next week to maybe 10 days. You can see, though, come next weekend, it starts to weaken quite significantly, actually. And eventually, we do see low pressure replace it. It does take its time here on this latest GFS, right towards the middle of April. But it happens, and we do see low pressure starting to take over. And you can see it goes much, much more unsettled. Still high pressure around, still a bit of high pressure blocking in the North Atlantic, creating application of the jet stream, potentially a bit of a cut-off low developing there. Again, it's not fully cut off. There is a connection to the jet stream, but it is getting cut off with that high pressure trying to envelop the low. So if that did occur and it got very slow moving, then we could see a lot of rain in this sort of scenario. But I think we'll just have to wait and see how it does develop over the next few days. But yeah, very interesting. Starting to see some consensus for a breakdown here as we progress further into April. Now, if you check out the latest GM, again, that's southeasterly flow at the moment, easterly winds more pronounced into next week, and then progressively towards day 10, the high pressure starts to break down towards next weekend, and it gets fully replaced by day 10 with much deeper areas of low pressure moving in below the 1,000 millibars. We would expect to see showers and areas of rain pushing back in. At the moment, it seems like it can't rain at all. No rain we've seen for a good while now, and not expected for the next week. Almost feel like rain is a thing of the past, but it is kind of come back, and you can see here it could come back with a vengeance if this GM run is correct. And as I said, there is consistency from the operational runs today because the eastern DOF is very similar. High pressure hangs around for the foreseeable future, but progressively towards day 10, it gets replaced by lower pressure. Maybe not as pronounced as the GM or the end of the GFS, but it is lower pressure, westerly flow, and you see deeper lows from Iceland heading our way. So all three main runs do get towards lower pressure around that day 10 time frame. GFS a bit slower, but GM and the ECF a bit more progressive. And you see a breakdown is coming, but at the moment we expect it day 7 to day 10. So yeah, we'll wait and see. Now to finish by looking at the latest ensembles, strong agreement even here from the ensembles for that lower pressure to return. Upper air temperatures dipping over the coming days as expected with that slight easterly flow, but generally speaking still above average, so still warm potential out there. Just depends how strong that easterly does blow. But you can see as we progress towards the middle of the month, around that 14th, 15th mark, precipitation starts to increase, not overwhelming yet, so not complete confidence, but increasing confidence. And you see cooler air masses pushing in as well. It's more pronounced if we look at the sea level pressure definitive drop appearing there around the 14th, 15th. So again, strong agreement that lower pressure is going to make a definitive return. A similar pattern from the latest ECMWF. Again, cooling, slightly warmer, perhaps towards the mid-month, but increased in precipitation. And you can see the sea level pressure, if we go on to the midnight run, dipping as well. So very strong consensus now from both the operational and ensemble runs. So yeah, we'll see how it plays out in the coming days, but do enjoy the dry and hopefully warm conditions over the next week or so, because we don't know when we're going to see a proper nicer spell again. Hopefully it will happen. There's a small chance we have a disastrous summer, but it has been very pleasant the last few weeks and will be pleasant this next week. So do make sure you enjoy it. As I said, all good things will come to the end eventually. And I think we're starting to see the first signs of that towards mid-April. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.